As the plane descended towards Sydney, the sprawling cityscape came into view, with the iconic Opera House and Harbour Bridge standing prominently against the coastline. Lyra pressed her face against the window, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Look at that, Sam. It's even more impressive in person," she exclaimed, unable to hide her excitement. Sam chuckled, sharing her enthusiasm. "Wait until we're walking around down there. Sydney's going to be a great start to our Australian adventure." They collected their luggage and headed through customs, the buzz of the busy airport adding to the thrill of their arrival. Once outside, they were greeted by warm, salty air and the distant calls of seagulls. Sam arranged for a taxi, and soon they were weaving through the city streets. "First stop, the hotel to drop off our stuff, then the Sydney Opera House. I've booked us on a tour that covers the history and architecture," Sam explained as they passed bustling cafes and shops. Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed on the passing scenery. "I read about the Opera House's design being inspired by sails. It's fascinating how architecture can capture the spirit of a place." "Exactly," Sam replied, pleased with her interest. "And tonight, how about dinner at Darling Harbour? It's perfect for our first evening here." "That sounds lovely," Lyra agreed, her enthusiasm for the new experiences palpable. Arriving at their hotel, they quickly checked in and refreshed themselves before heading out to explore. The Opera House was even more striking up close, its white tile sails gleaming under the sun. As they joined the tour, the guide began detailing the building's history. The Opera House was designed by Jorn Utzon and opened in 1973. It's considered one of the 20th century's most famous and distinctive buildings, the guide shared, leading the group around the structure. Lyra listened intently, occasionally asking questions about the construction challenges and the cultural events held at the venue. "How is the acoustics managed in such a unique structure?" she inquired, genuinely curious. "The design is not just aesthetic. It's also acoustically functional, ensuring sound is carried clearly throughout the performance halls," the guide explained, pointing out the specific design features that contributed to the acoustics. Sam took photos, capturing both the grandeur of the Opera House and Lyra's reactions. As the tour concluded, they strolled towards Darling Harbour, the sky beginning to tint with colors of dusk. Darling Harbour was lively, filled with people enjoying the cool evening. They found a cozy spot at a waterfront restaurant, the lights of the city reflecting off the water, creating a mesmerizing view. "This is beautiful, Sam. I'm so glad we're here," Lyra said, taking a sip of her drink, her eyes reflecting the sparkling lights. Sam smiled, reaching across the table to take her hand. "It's just the beginning. Australia has so much to offer, and I can't wait to explore it with you." Their conversation flowed easily, filled with plans for the days ahead and the adventures they would have. As the night deepened, they shared a toast to the start of another memorable journey together, each moment further deepening their bond. Refreshed from their first night in Sydney, Sam and Lyra began their second day with a visit to the Royal Botanic Garden. As they wandered through the lush, vibrant pathways, the garden's tranquility contrasted sharply with the bustling city streets they had experienced the day before. "These gardens are a real oasis in the city," Sam remarked, admiring a display of native Australian plants. "Each one has its unique adaptation to thrive in Australia's climate." Lyra, fascinated by the variety of flora, paused to examine a particularly exotic-looking flower. "The biodiversity is remarkable. It's similar to what I've studied about Earth ecosystems, but seeing it in person adds so much depth to my understanding," she observed. They continued their walk, coming across a guided tour discussing the garden's history and its role in conservation efforts. Lyra and Sam decided to join, curious to learn more. The guide explained how the garden not only served as a place of beauty, but also functioned as a crucial center for botanical research and conservation. In addition to being a haven for these plants, the gardens help educate the public on the importance of biodiversity and conservation, the guide explained. Lyra listened intently, her mind already drawing parallels between the conservation techniques here and those on her own planet. After their tour, they grabbed a light lunch at a cafe within the gardens, enjoying the peaceful scenery. Over sandwiches and coffee, they planned their next stop, the Sydney Aquarium. At the aquarium, Lyra was captivated by the colorful marine life, from the delicate seahorses to the sleek, swift sharks. "The way these ecosystems are interconnected is so complex," she noted as they watched a school of fish dart through a coral exhibit. "Yes, and each species plays a specific role in maintaining the health of its habitat," Sam added, pointing out a stingray gliding gracefully under the water. It's a delicate balance, much like the ecosystems back home on your planet, right? Lyra agreed, her thoughts on how every detail mattered in the grand scheme of nature. They spent the afternoon exploring different aquatic displays, each one showcasing a unique aspect of marine life. As evening approached, they decided to catch a ferry to Manly Beach, enjoying the panoramic views of Sydney Harbor along the way. The ferry ride offered them a refreshing breeze and a chance to see the city from a different perspective. Arriving at Manly, they strolled along the beach, watching surfers brave the waves. The sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the ocean. It was the perfect end to a day filled with natural wonders. "That was an amazing day," Lyra said, taking a deep breath of the salty air. "I feel like I've learned so much already." Sam smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "And there's still more to come. Tomorrow we head to the Blue Mountains." As they took the ferry back to Sydney, the city lights began to twinkle in the twilight. Both felt a deepening connection, not just to each other, but to the vibrant, diverse life they were exploring together. The next morning, Sam and Lyra set off early for the Blue Mountains, a majestic range known for its dramatic scenery and rich biodiversity. They were excited for a day of hiking and wildlife spotting, eager to immerse themselves in the natural beauty of the area. Upon arriving, they met their guide, Jasper, at the entrance of a well-known hiking trail. "Today we might see anything from cockatoos to the elusive lyrebird," Jasper explained as he led them into the dense bushland. The Blue Mountains are home to a wide range of Australian wildlife, each uniquely adapted to this environment. As they trekked through the lush, fern-laden paths, Jasper pointed out various bird species, each with their vibrant plumage and distinct calls. Lyra was particularly fascinated by the lyrebird's ability to mimic natural and artificial sounds. "It's incredible how it can replicate even complex sounds like chainsaws and camera shutters," she marveled, listening intently to Jasper's recordings of the bird. Their path took them to a lookout point that offered breathtaking views of the mountain range's steep cliffs and eucalyptus forests. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of the bush, and the vastness of the landscape stretched out before them. "The scope of Earth's natural beauty never ceases to amaze me," Lyra said, her eyes scanning the horizon. As they continued their hike, they encountered other wildlife, including a wallaby that briefly paused on the path before bounding away. "They're quite common here, but it's always a treat to see one up close," Jasper noted, leading them further along the trail. The group stopped for lunch by a small, clear stream, enjoying the peaceful sounds of the flowing water and the rustling leaves. Here, Sam and Lyra had a moment to reflect on their journey so far. "Every part of Earth offers something new and extraordinary," Sam observed, watching a pair of parrots fly overhead. "It's incredible to share this with you." Lyra agreed, her thoughts on their experiences enriching her understanding of Earth's ecosystems. "And each experience teaches me more about how interconnected life is, no matter the planet," she added. The afternoon was spent exploring more of the area, including a visit to the famous Three Sisters rock formation. Jasper shared the Aboriginal legends associated with the site, adding a cultural dimension to their visit. Lyra found the stories moving, noting how deeply cultural heritage was intertwined with the natural world. As the day drew to a close, they made their way back to the trailhead, tired but fulfilled. The drive back to Sydney was quiet, both Sam and Lyra lost in thought, processing all they had seen and learned. That evening, back at their hotel, they discussed the day's highlights and planned their next steps. "Tomorrow, we head to the Great Barrier Reef," Sam said excitedly. "It'll be another chance to see a completely different yet equally fascinating ecosystem." Lyra nodded, her anticipation building. "Every day brings new wonders," she remarked. "I can't wait to see what the reef has to reveal." Their adventure in the Blue Mountains had deepened their appreciation for Australia's natural heritage and reaffirmed their commitment to exploring and understanding the diverse environments Earth had to offer. Early the next morning, Sam and Lyra caught a flight from Sydney to Cairns, gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. The excitement was palpable as they discussed the incredible diversity of marine life they hoped to see. "The reef is one of the natural wonders of the world," Sam said as the plane touched down. "It's a massive living structure visible even from space." Upon arrival, they transferred to a boat that would take them out to one of the reef's popular diving spots. The sun shone brightly, reflecting off the turquoise waters, and the air was filled with the salty tang of the sea. "I've read about coral bleaching and the threats the reef faces," Lyra noted, her tone a mix of anticipation and concern. I'm eager to see its beauty and understand more about what can be done to protect it. As they reached the diving site, the boat captain gave a briefing on the area's ecology and the rules for interacting responsibly with the environment. The reef is a delicate ecosystem, he explained. Every visitor plays a part in its conservation. Donning snorkeling gear, Sam and Lyra eagerly jumped into the water. The world beneath the waves was a riot of color. Vibrant corals, swaying sea fans, and countless fish in dazzling patterns and hues. Lyra was mesmerized, floating above the coral gardens, observing everything from tiny clownfish weaving through anemones to a graceful sea turtle cruising past. The diversity is astounding, Lyra said through her snorkel, her voice bubbling with excitement. Sam nodded, pointing towards a group of parrotfish nibbling on the coral. They spent hours in the water, exploring different parts of the reef with their guide, who pointed out various species and explained their roles in the ecosystem. During a break aboard the boat, Lyra discussed her observations with the guide. It's clear that the reef is both resilient and vulnerable. Seeing this, I feel a strong urgency to advocate for marine conservation more effectively. Sam agreed, his expression serious. What we learn here can help inform our Foundation's efforts. The reef's health is a global concern. After a full day of diving, they returned to cairns, both quiet, reflecting on the profound beauty and the environmental challenges they had witnessed. That evening, they dined at a local seafood restaurant overlooking the ocean, discussing the day's experiences. This trip has deepened my understanding in ways I hadn't anticipated, Lyra said, looking out at the darkening sea. The connection between all living things, it's more intricate than I ever imagined. Sam reached across the table, taking her hand. It's a reminder of why our work matters. Seeing places like the Great Barrier Reef up close, it changes you. It makes the fight to save these treasures personal. The next morning, they planned to visit the Daintree rainforest, another critical ecosystem. As they prepared for bed, both felt a renewed commitment to their environmental mission, fueled by the day's powerful encounters with one of Earth's most vital and vulnerable natural wonders. The next day, after their deep dive into the marine life of the Great Barrier Reef, Sam and Lyra ventured north to the Daintree rainforest. The drive offered stunning views of the coastline, transitioning into the dense, lush greenery of one of the world's oldest rainforests. Arriving in the heart of the Daintree, they joined a guided eco-tour. Their guide, an experienced ecologist named Mara, shared fascinating insights into the rainforest's diverse ecosystems. As they walked along the path, Mara pointed out various endemic species, explaining their ecological roles and the symbiotic relationships that allowed the rainforest to thrive. Lyra was captivated by the complexity of the rainforest. Every step reveals a new layer of life, she observed, listening to the sounds of birds and insects that filled the air. It's a living library, Mara agreed, showing them a rare orchid blooming high in a tree. Each species here has adapted in unique ways to fit into this environment. As the day wore on, they reached a clear river winding through the forest. Sam and Lyra took the opportunity to cool off, wading into the water under Mara's watchful eye. The refreshing break was followed by more exploration, where they encountered a cassowary, its vivid blue neck standing out against the foliage. The cassowary is crucial for seed dispersal here, Mara explained. Without it, many of these plants wouldn't survive. The forest walk took them deeper into the rainforest, where the canopy overhead dimmed the sunlight to a gentle glow. Lyra's respect for this ancient ecosystem deepened, and she shared her thoughts with Sam. Places like this are essential not just for biodiversity, but for the planet's health as a whole. As evening approached, they returned to the edge of the rainforest, where Mara had arranged for a small sunset viewing on the beach nearby. The sky turned brilliant shades of orange and purple as the sun sank towards the horizon. Sitting on the sand, Sam and Lyra watched the sunset in silence for a few moments, each absorbed in the beauty of the moment. Then Sam turned to Lyra, taking her hand gently. This day, every day with you. It's been incredible. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunset's colors. I feel the same. Being here with you, learning and seeing new things, it's brought me so much joy. As the last sliver of sun disappeared, Sam leaned in closer. Lyra, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of the waves. Without another word, their first kiss happened naturally, softly, as if it were a part of the sunset itself. The kiss deepened their connection, sealing their shared experiences with a promise of more to come. As the sky darkened, they sat together, talking about their hopes for the future and the difference they wanted to make in the world. That night, as they drove back to their accommodation, the stars began to emerge, dotting the sky with light. The day had ended, but for Sam and Lyra, it felt like a new beginning. Their journey through Australia had not only brought them closer to nature, but to each other as well. With their spirits still high from the romantic sunset at the Daintree rainforest, Sam and Lyra set out early the next morning for the next leg of their Australian journey, a trip to the vast and rugged Australian Outback. They were eager to explore the iconic red desert landscapes and learn about the unique flora and fauna that inhabit this harsh environment. Their guide for this part of the trip was Mick, an experienced bushman with a deep love for the Outback. As they drove away from the coastal greenery and into the arid heart of Australia, the scenery shifted dramatically. The lush rainforest was replaced by endless stretches of red dirt and sparse vegetation under a vast, cloudless sky. "Welcome to the real Outback," Mick announced as they bumped along a dusty road. "Out here, it's all about survival and adaptation. The plants and animals you'll see have made some remarkable adaptations to thrive in these conditions." Their first stop was a remote waterhole, an oasis amid the dry terrain. Mick pointed out various bird species that came to drink and bathe. Lyra was fascinated by the contrast between this arid zone and the lush rainforest they had left behind. "It's amazing how life finds a way, even in the most challenging conditions," she noted, watching a group of zebra finches flitting about. As they continued deeper into the Outback, Mick shared stories of the Aboriginal peoples who had lived in this land for thousands of years, adapting their lifestyles to the environment. He showed them ancient rock art, explaining the stories and significance behind each painting. "These paintings are more than art. They're a record of the Aboriginal connection to the land, the animals, and the spiritual world," Mick explained, his respect for the culture evident in his tone. In the late afternoon, they arrived at Uluru, the massive sandstone monolith that is a sacred site for the local Anangu people. The rock's massive presence was awe-inspiring as it stood starkly against the backdrop of the flat, open landscape. The setting sun cast Uluru in brilliant shades of orange and red, changing colors before their eyes. "It's a sacred place," Mick whispered as they watched the sunset. "The Anangu believe that Uluru was formed by ancestral beings during the Dreamtime. Every crevice, every shade of color has a story." That night, they camped under the stars near Uluru, the clear desert sky offering an unparalleled view of the Milky Way. Lying back on their swags, Sam and Lyra talked about the day's experiences. "This place, it's like nowhere else on Earth," Sam said thoughtfully. "The vastness makes you feel small, but part of something much bigger." Lyra nodded, her voice soft. "It's humbling and inspiring at the same time. I understand now why it's so important to protect these landscapes, not just for their physical beauty, but for their cultural and spiritual significance." Their conversation drifted into plans for how they could support and promote conservation efforts in areas like the Outback. As they drifted off to sleep, the land seemed to echo with the ancient stories Mick had shared, weaving them into the dreamy tapestry of the night. After spending a magical night under the Outback stars, Sam and Lyra woke to a brilliant sunrise illuminating Uluru. They packed up their camp with a renewed sense of purpose and joined Mick for an early morning walk around the base of the rock, eager to witness its majesty in the soft morning light. As they walked, Mick pointed out various natural features and explained their significance in Anangu culture. "Every aspect of this landscape is infused with meaning and history," he said, gesturing towards the ancient rock formations that surrounded them. Lyra was deeply moved by the spiritual presence that seemed to permeate the air. "It's one thing to read about these places, but being here is completely different. It feels like walking through a living story," she remarked. Mick nodded, pleased with her insight. "Yes, and these stories are crucial for understanding the Anangu way of life and their deep connection to the land." The group continued their walk in reflective silence, each step bringing them closer to understanding the sacredness of Uluru. They stopped occasionally to observe the local flora and fauna that had adapted to thrive in the harsh desert conditions. As the day progressed, Mick took them to a nearby Aboriginal community where they were welcomed with warm hospitality. Sam and Lyra had the opportunity to interact with the community members, learning about their traditions, art, and ongoing efforts to preserve their heritage. "This community's resilience is inspiring," Sam observed as they watched a demonstration of traditional dance and music. Their cultural preservation is a testament to their strength and dedication. Lyra agreed, deeply impressed by the community's vibrancy and vitality. The connection between their culture and the land is a powerful reminder of how essential it is to respect and protect indigenous rights and knowledge, she added. As the sun began to set, the community elder invited Sam and Lyra to participate in a ceremonial fire circle, meant to foster good relationships and understanding among all people. Sitting around the fire, they shared stories of their travels, listened to ancestral tales, and discussed the importance of unity and cooperation in conservation efforts. That evening, as they lay back under another star-filled sky, Sam and Lyra felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and connection, not only to each other, but to the planet and its many diverse cultures. This journey has been about so much more than just seeing new places, Lyra said thoughtfully. It's about seeing the world in a new way, understanding its depths, and recognizing our role in its story. Sam squeezed her hand, sharing in the moment of realization. And it's about taking that understanding back with us, using it to make a difference in how we live and how we help others see the world. With the stars shimmering above them, they drifted off to sleep. Dreams mingled with the day's profound experiences, carrying them into the future with new insights and aspirations. On their final morning in Australia, Sam and Lyra rose early to watch the sunrise over Uluru one last time. As the desert sky turned from dark to a blaze of orange and pink hues, they reflected on their journey through Australia, from the bustling streets of Sydney to the colorful depths of the Great Barrier Reef, and finally, the spiritual and raw beauty of the Outback. Packing their belongings for the trip back to Sydney, Lyra felt a mix of sadness and fulfillment. I knew this trip would be special, but I didn't anticipate just how transformative it would be, she confessed as they drove to the airport. Sam nodded, feeling equally moved. Each place we visited showed us something unique about the natural world and ourselves. It's been an incredible shared journey. At the airport, while waiting for their flight, they compiled notes and photographs from their trip, planning to create a comprehensive feature for their foundation's newsletter. We have so much to share, not just about the natural beauty we've seen, but also about the importance of cultural respect and environmental responsibility, Sam noted, tapping away at his laptop. Lyra worked alongside him, her thoughts already on future projects. I think we should organize a series of talks when we get back. We could share our experiences and discuss global conservation strategies with our community, she suggested, her mind buzzing with ideas. That's a great idea, Sam agreed, enthusiastic about the prospect of engaging more people in their environmental mission. And we should continue supporting the preservation projects we learned about, especially those led by the Aboriginal communities. Their flight called, they boarded, settling into their seats with a sense of accomplishment. As the plane took off, leaving Australia behind, they held hands, each pondering the road ahead. The end of this trip is just the beginning of another chapter for us, Sam said, looking out at the clouds. We have work to do, and with everything we've learned, I feel more ready than ever to tackle it. Lyra smiled, her spirit lifted by his words and their shared goals. Together, we can make a difference. We've seen the challenges firsthand, but we've also seen the opportunities for change and growth. The flight home was long, giving them plenty of time to plan and dream. By the time they landed, they had outlined several new initiatives for their foundation, inspired by the conservation efforts and community resilience they had witnessed in Australia. Arriving back home, they felt changed, more connected to each other and to their cause. They were ready to use their experiences to inspire others and to continue their work with renewed vigor and hope. Their journey through Australia had not only deepened their relationship, but it also reaffirmed their commitment to each other and their shared vision for a better, more sustainable world. As they left the airport, they looked forward to the future, ready to apply their new knowledge and insights to make a lasting impact.